We certainly cannot go away without saluting Andy Camacho for that great evening that he had last night. You know, Andy, you don't know this about him, but when he was first born, the doctor came out to his dad. He shook his head and he said, "Mr. Camacho, we did everything we could, but he pulled through." And one of my good friends, all the way back to 58, is Chuck Amico. And Charlie, who was romantic Charlie as he was always known. I remember in his senior year having breakfast with his girlfriend, and she finally leaned across the table and said, "Chuck, I'm leaving you. What do you have to say about that?" And he kind of snorted and said, "You got the sports page over there?" Chuck had recently, with Dr. Shields, we're sorry he isn't here, he was here last night. He operated on Chuck's leg just recently, which is an old football injury he had here. And after the surgery, Dr. Shields came out and he said, "Chuck's doing okay. He lost 6 ounces of blood and 3 quarts of urine." And good old Charlie Walsh, he flew in all the way from Florida here tonight. And Charlie went to Dr. Shields and he said, "Doc, if I quit drinking, will I live longer?" And Shields looked at him and says, "No, but it'll seem like it." Wherever she is, she gets away. And we have Mark Overland. Mark took me out to dinner just recently. We were both on the committee, the reunion committee. And so we sat down and he says, "Okay, now, Ragnar," he says, "order the most expensive thing on the menu." So I did. I ordered the most expensive thing on the menu, a quarter pounder with double cheese. Now, so Overland says, pulls out a little piece of paper and he says, "Take a look at this coupon, Crowley. Does it say anything on there about cheese?" It's Al Perez here. Didn't make it. Another 4A guy. Probably still trying to find his way. Anyway, gotta say this about Al. He holds the CIF record for the most bizarre reason. He could not recite in Barnett's class. Are you ready for it? He pulled a muscle in his tongue. You should have seen it. Between his thumb and forefinger, he's holding his tongue and he's trying to mumble to Barnett. And Barnett says, "In all my years, I'll be..." And of course, my question is, I've been thinking about this for 50 years. See what a great life I've got. What was Al doing when he got that injury? That's what I was. And you don't want to know, right? Now, there are few things in life that can completely destroy a man's mind: war, pestilence, and a blind date. Remember, guys, when you had that blind date? And you were going to go out with somebody and you'd ask, "What was she like?" And she always was the same response: "Well, she's got a great personality." And that can mean only one thing: she's 3 feet tall, weighs 500 pounds, and belongs to roller derby. And you go to pick her up at her house, and you take one look at her, and you realize you're going to have to get her a little drunk. So I got her Ballard. I had my share of blind dates. I remember my freshman year, I took a 5-star loser, and we had a dance in the old gym, and the student body president, Bill Tom at the time, came up to me, took one look at her face, and he says, turns to me and says, "How many people were killed in that accident?" Sophomore year, I took another gal to a dance and Loyola, and somebody came up to me and said, "You know that your date works for the police?" I said, "Really?" "Yeah." sniffs luggage at LAX. And who can forget our last day being in Loyola as officially as seniors, which was grad night, and all the parties that went on. And I remember Millar always had the coolest parties over on Victoria Boulevard Avenue. And we finally left. The party was so wild, we finally left. My date looked back and turned to a pillar of salt. Now we have a couple of nice priests that came from our class that are here tonight. One is Father Paul DeVoe, who is our kind of celebrant here this evening. And recently Father DeVoe was counseling a guy, and he was going over an examination of conscience. He finally got to the point where he said, "Son, did you ever entertain impure thoughts?" And the guy's face lit up and he says, "No, but they sure entertained me." Flew down from up north, and he's in the plane. He says that I was on a plane with a Protestant minister, a rabbi, and an old Monsignor. And so the stewardess comes by and says, "Would you like a complimentary drink?" And so the rabbi says, "I'll take a scotch and soda." And he goes to the minister, and he says, "I'll take a martini." And then he goes to Monsignor O'Flaherty, and he says, "Monsignor, would you like a little refreshment?" And he says, "What kind is that?" He says, "Well, a little liquor." And he says, "Glory be to Peter. I would commit adultery before I would touch a drop of liquor." And with that, the rabbi jumps up in the back and hollers, "Hold that scotch and soda. I didn't know we had a choice." And finally, I got a related Valentine from somebody, and on the cover it says, "Open this Valentine and you'll see two of the biggest boobs you've ever seen in your life." So naturally I opened up the Valentine, and sure enough, I saw two of the biggest boobs I've ever seen in my life, Doreen and Carpenter. Good night, everybody.